Soft piano music fades in. The scene opens with sunlight pouring over a suburban street. Narrator, calm but gripping. When billionaire CEO Victoria Hale knocked on that small-town door pretending to be a nanny, she thought she was saving her company. She didn't expect to lose her heart, or her secrets, to the man on the other side. But before we get there, let me tell you something that will shock you. Because at the end of this story, when the police arrived at that little house, they didn't arrest him. They arrested her. Beat of silence. Now before we dive in, make sure you hit like and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles, because what you're about to hear proves that sometimes, the richest hearts aren't found in bank accounts. Music shifts to suspenseful tone. Narrator. Victoria Hale, 34 years old, head of Hale Dynamics, a billion-dollar tech firm based in Seattle. Sharp, brilliant, but lately, desperate. Her company was under federal investigation. Someone had leaked internal data, something that could destroy her career overnight. The media was circling like sharks. Investors were pulling out. Her PR team told her to lay low. So, she disappeared. Not to a penthouse. Not to an island. But to a tiny American town called Maple Creek, Oregon, where no one knew her face. That's where she met Daniel Brooks. Narrator, softer tone. Daniel was a single dad. 38. His wife had died 2 years earlier in a car crash, leaving him with a 6-year-old daughter, Lily. He was kind. A little broken. A carpenter who built toys from scrap wood to make Lily smile. When Victoria showed up at his door, resume forged, fake references in hand, Daniel just looked tired. "Are you here about the nanny job?" he asked. And Victoria, billionaire, boardroom queen, Forbes cover girl, smiled nervously and said, "Yes. I love kids." She didn't. Not really. She loved control. Efficiency. Profit. But something about that little girl hiding behind Daniel's leg, shy, holding a half-broken teddy bear, made her throat tighten. For the first time in years, Victoria Hale felt human. Narrator. The first days were a disaster. Victoria didn't know how to boil pasta without burning it. Lily hated her cooking. Daniel caught her once trying to use his power drill like a blender. But Lily loved stories. So, every night, Victoria would sit by her bed and make up wild fairy tales about magical queens who had lost their crowns. And every night, Lily would ask, "Do they ever find them again?" Victoria always hesitated before answering. "Not yet," she'd whisper. "But they're getting close." Narrator, low, emotional. It was supposed to be temporary, 1 week, maybe 2, until the investigation cooled off. But 2 weeks became 3. Then a month. Daniel started to notice small things, how Victoria's hands shook when she saw news reports on TV. How she'd stare at her phone like she was waiting for bad news. He didn't ask questions. He just brewed coffee, fixed her broken reading glasses, and said softly, "You look like someone who forgot what peace feels like." No one had ever said that to her before. And she didn't know why, but that night, Victoria cried. Narrator, intense. Meanwhile, back in Seattle, chaos was unfolding. The leak had worsened. Millions were lost. The media screamed, "Where is Victoria Hale?" Detectives suspected she'd fled the country. But one man, Ethan Clark, her ruthless CFO, wasn't convinced. He'd known Victoria since college. He'd built the company beside her. But Ethan had always wanted more, power, control, maybe even her position. He started digging. And what he found, one grainy photo of Victoria standing outside a toy store in Maple Creek, was enough to send him driving straight toward her. Narrator, fast-paced. In Maple Creek, life was quiet, until one afternoon. Victoria was helping Lily bake cookies when Daniel's hands brushed hers. Just for a second. But it was enough to send sparks through the air. He smiled awkwardly, wiping flour from his beard. "Guess you're not just city polished after all." Victoria laughed. It was the first real laugh she'd had in years. That night, she couldn't sleep. She stood outside under the stars, thinking about how far she'd fallen, and how strangely free she felt. Narrator, calm but uneasy. But peace never lasts when secrets are involved. The next morning, Ethan Clark showed up. He didn't knock. He didn't smile. He just pushed the door open and said, "Victoria. We need to talk." Daniel froze. "Victoria," he repeated. "I thought your name was Grace." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. Victoria's double life shattered in seconds. Ethan's voice was cold. "The feds are coming. You're the only suspect left. You need to come with me now, before it's too late." Daniel turned to her, disbelief in his eyes. "You lied to me? To Lily?" She wanted to explain, that she hadn't stolen anything, that she was being framed. But all she could whisper was, "I didn't mean to lie. I just didn't know how to be real anymore." Narrator, emotional. Ethan dragged her outside. Reporters were already arriving. Cameras flashed. Daniel shielded Lily behind him, watching as Victoria, the woman who had been his daughter's bedtime storyteller, was shoved into a black car. Before the door closed, she looked at him through tears. "Tell Lily, the Queen found her crown." And then she was gone. Narrator, soft fade. In the days that followed, news broke everywhere. Hale Dynamics CEO arrested in data scandal. Corporate empire falls. But Daniel didn't believe it. He found a flash drive Victoria had hidden under Lily's bed, one she'd dropped the night before. And when he opened it, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Inside were confidential emails. Proof that Ethan Clark had been the one leaking company data, and framing Victoria to seize control. Daniel realized, Victoria had sacrificed everything to protect her employees, her company, and now, her freedom. He packed his truck and drove straight to Seattle. Tense background music swells. Narrator. When Daniel burst into Hale Dynamics headquarters, security tried to stop him. But he slammed the flash drive on the receptionist's desk and said, "Get this to the FBI. Now." Hours later, a miracle. Ethan Clark was arrested. Victoria was released. But when she walked out of that federal building, her eyes searched the crowd, and he wasn't there. Just reporters. Cameras. Chaos. She whispered to herself. I guess he went back to Maple Creek. But Daniel hadn't gone home yet. He was standing quietly at the corner of the street, holding a small wooden toy crown in his hand. He'd carved it for Lily. And maybe, for Victoria too. Narrator, gentle, heartfelt. When she saw him, she ran. Not the way CEOs walk into boardrooms. But like a woman who'd finally remembered what it feels like to be alive. Daniel caught her in his arms. She laughed through tears. I thought I'd lost everything, she said. He smiled softly. You just forgot what mattered. Narrator, ending emotional cue. Months later, Victoria left the corporate world. She opened a children's literacy foundation, in Maple Creek, in memory of the little girl who reminded her how to feel again. And every night, when Lily asked for another bedtime story, Victoria would begin with the same words. Once upon a time, there was a queen who lost her crown. But a kind man helped her find it again. Soft piano music swells. Narrator, final note. Sometimes love doesn't arrive when we're ready. It arrives when we've lost everything, and reminds us that kindness is the only true wealth. So,